Welcome to Knife Chats with Tobias, brought to you by the Cat Production Team.
Well, I had been waiting for the Rough Rider Reserve Rhino Toe to show up at SMKW so I could place an order, but got tired of waiting. And then the Bigfoot stickers showed up, and they were in orders now. And I thought, well, I better order something now, otherwise, by the time the Rough Rider Reserve Rhino Toe shows up, the stickers won't be in stock. I know already people aren't getting them, but I was lucky enough to get one, so I've got my Bigfoot SMKW sticker. And in the process of getting the sticker, I also grabbed the Marbles Black Stag Bone knife, one of the knives in that series. This is a current series that Marbles is doing. I picked up the MR477, and as you can tell from the box, it's a big one. It's not a little itty-bitty knife, because unlike Rough Rider, Marbles tends to make the box the size of the knife. And what this knife is again the Marbles safety folder. Now, I've had one of these in the past, a Marbles safety folder, not in black stag bone, but a Marbles safety folder. But I gave it to someone who needed that particular knife more than I did. But I still wanted a Marbles safety folder, so I went ahead and ordered another one in the black stag bone. And well, let's take a look at the knife instead of the box. And there you have it, the Marbles safety folder in black stag bone. It's a big honking knife even when it is closed, as you can see here from the ruler. If you're talking about something that's going to be pocket friendly, this is not it. 6 1/4 inches long when folded. And as you can tell, you got this thing sticking out the back. We've talked about that before. But what you have here is the black stag bone. And if this looks familiar, it should. The pattern of this black stag bone has been around before. It was in the Colt lineup originally. And Colt used it on 2 occasions. One with the Samuel Colt Signature Series, and then later with one with a Federal Shield on it. I think the one with the Federal Shield had some kind of blade edge going on too. In any case, and if you notice the pattern here, it is the same pattern that was used in the Colt series of knives. It is also the same pattern that you will find in Marbles green stag bone and brown stag bone, and you'll also see it in the Colt brown stag bone and also in the current Rough Rider stag bone knives, regardless of the color. So the jigging is all exactly the same because, well, these are made in the same factory as Rough Rider, and the stag bone pattern that they're using is the exact same pattern. All they do is dye the bone differently. So this is a natural colored bone with the black dye added into where all the texture is in the stag bone portion. And if you notice, it's very smooth on the outside portion. I kind of do like the way it is done. When it came out in the Colt series, I wasn't nearly as crazy about it as I am now. I wish I would have picked up a few of the Colt knives. You notice here you got a pinch on the bolster down here and a pinch on the bolster up here. And then wide rings, one at the very top of the bolster, one at the very bottom of the bolster in both cases. So that's kind of interesting. And you've got, if you can tell there, you have like a black liner underneath the bone, or some kind of filler underneath the bone. It's like whatever the glue is or epoxy. They spread it around and then they just shove the bone into it, and then it is also pinned. You've got 1, 2, 3, 4 pins holding it. This back pin is for this portion of the knife, the blade cover for the knife, and this pin here is obviously for the back spring. Nice thick back spring, and as you can tell, it is also a swing guard. I do not know how long the Marbles safety folder has been around. I know it predates when the company went bankrupt and was bought by Bluegrass Cutlery. And well, let's get her opened up and you can just see how big a knife it is. You see that nice big blade there and the handle there, and then what you do is you flip this in and you close it, and that's the safety folder portion if you're not familiar with these, because that kind of prevents the blade from closing. You also have the swing guard to protect your hand from sliding up on the blade, and then the blade has a slight clip to it, but a really nice swedge running around the top there. Nice long swedge. And there you have what the knife looks like when it is opened. And you've basically turned a folding knife into a fixed blade knife with a cross guard. And overall length, once it is open, you're talking about pretty much a full-size hunting knife now. Slightly over 9 inches long, about 9 1/8 inches long, with a blade that comes in at 4 1/2 inches long, with a cutting edge that is almost 4 1/2 inches long, close to let's say 4 3/8 of an inch cutting edge on that blade. And yeah, this does annoy me a little bit, but you get used to it, and it gives you like that second guard on your hand. I don't know how else you could describe it. You get your finger in there, and it's not too bad. You get 2 fingers behind and 1 finger in front, and if you're grabbing it like so for thrusting or something, it'll work really well. And obviously the guard is in the way if you're trying to do any cutting like so. So you're pressing down and cutting, or pressing from behind and cutting, it works. You can get around the guard if you're doing scraping, just like you would with any other full guard on a knife. Blade, nice and tight, as I would have expected. Can you close it? To be honest, maybe if you are Son of Hercules, you can close this blade with this down, but this has a strong spring holding this in place, and then you have this blade working against that, so you have a lot working against it. Yes, you do have a little movement on it, but to close it with that down is very, very difficult. That's as far as I got, and it's not comfortable at all. So yeah, I think you can definitely say it's a safety folder. Once you have that thing down, you pretty much have a fixed blade knife. It gives a little bit, but not a lot. And you saw how much of effort I was putting into it. And if you're actually grabbing that, if you got your hand on that, which you would, you have a functional fixed blade. There's no movement now, hardly at all, because I've got this holding it in place too. So it doesn't move once you do that. Now, what I've done all the time with these is the first thing I do when I get the knife is I will take it, and notice the strong half stop. This blade, I will say it is around a 7 or an 8. That is the the tension you have on the blade. Normally what I will do when I first get the knife is I will intentionally drop it into that really skinny channel down there just to see if the blade is lined up. And as you can see, that one dropped right in. Because if it doesn't drop right in there, then I'm going to ask for a new knife. I'm going to send this one back and get a different one. Because they sometimes will not line up correctly. But the ones I've had have lined up. This one, there is no movement in this at all. Well, if I try real hard, but you can see that this could possibly get bent if you were to leave it out when the blade is not there, because, well, you're not supposed to do that. But if you close it into the handle, you've got a functional fixed blade knife. This is protected from getting bent. You can grab the knife like so, open it up. Wonderful half stop. Man, I am impressed with that half stop. And that's nice and good, strong and in place. And then boom, drops right in place. Normally what I will do is I will gently put it down once I get it past the half stop, just to make sure. But yeah, excellent lines going on with this thing. I'm very happy with it. They did a really good job with it. And because you have that epoxy, liner going on with that, guess what? It's definitely, there's no gaps. I can tell you that now. Because of that black liner going on, you can't have a gap. That would have been a gap, I would assume, if you look at how that bone is. But because of the black liner, it's filled in with whatever the goop is that they used there. So that's pretty cool. Nice and solid. This thing is also heavy. I will definitely put some weights on here for you. But it is also a big knife. Just for comparison with some of the larger folding knives I have in my collection, here is the 5.5-inch Deer Slayer by Rough Rider, and well, let's move this in front. That is probably the closest knife in size to the safety folder when it comes to your typical pocket knife. If you compare this to a Granddaddy Barlow, you can see much different. Here is a 5-inch fish knife by Queen, and you can see definitely much more of a pocket full. And compared to a standard trapper, a 4 1/8-inch trapper, yeah, you can see this is not going to be a pocket friendly knife. This is, and if you notice here, you've got the line here. You can actually carry this with a lanyard by passing a ring through here or a lanyard or something on there. And even when you fold it up or open it up and drop this in, you then just have a lanyard in the front instead of in the back. I'll show you what I mean. Okay, so with most knives, you're used to having the lanyard in the back, but there are some times where a knife will have a lanyard hole up front, and when you flip that up like that, then you have the lanyard hole up front. And here's one of my fancy lanyards, which is basically a shoelace. Snap it in place there, and now you have your lanyard coming out there. And I suppose, I guess you could, yeah, tie the knife up onto your hand and be ready to go. It's not going to go anywhere. It's not going to slip. And you got a nice grip on your knife, and your lanyard is out of the way while you're using it. And then when you're all done, you know, pull it out, close your blade, and you got the lanyard so that you can drop this knife in your pocket now and pull it out. And yeah, that's a big knife for the pocket, but you know, if you're wearing like overalls or something, you could definitely drop it in that side pocket on your overalls, and then you'd have a lanyard to pull it out with or something of that nature. In any case, you've got yourself a nice safety folder or large folding hunter that doesn't need a sheath. You could throw it in your tackle box. You could do whatever you want. You don't have a sheath with it, and so something for pocket carry, or if you wanted to get a big enough sheath, you could probably drop it into one and carry it that way too, I suppose. I wonder. Okay, probably not my first choice, but yeah, you could drop it in something like that and carry it on your belt if you wanted to. Yeah, you're going to have to pull it out and open it up, but I suppose you could also just go ahead and find a sheath with a sheath for a 5-inch blade and see how that works too. So I think this is for like a 5.5-inch blade or so. Yeah, I mean, nothing would stop you from actually using it as a regular belt carry knife too. So I don't know. I mean, your options for carrying it are pretty much endless. If you wanted to make a sheath for it, you could make a sheath for just simple carrying while it's folded. You can make a sheath for it while it's open. Yeah, I don't know. It's a pretty cool knife all in all, and yeah, definitely something you can just throw in your pocket and carry, even though it is pretty big, and it does have a lanyard hole, so that is also pretty cool. In any case, stick around for some slides.
Thanks for dropping by Knife Chats with Tobias. Don't forget to give us that thumbs up, leave a comment below, and subscribe and ring that notification bell so you know when the next episode is up and online.